Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well. And welcome to, depending on however you look at your clock or wherever you may live, this early morning or middle of the night bonus upload. Before we jump into it, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. And yes, folks, they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to this middle of the night or early morning bonus upload, shall we?
Today's first subscriber submission. Hey Jeff, how are you? This happened when I was around 5 or 6 is my best guess. Could have been around the age of 4. All I know is it's an age when you are getting up and going to your mom and dad's bedroom. I'm 43 now, so this was 80, 82. The first house I ever remember staying in was a 2-bedroom house. It was a square layout. When you walked in the front door, you were in the living room staring to a doorway that led to my 2 older sisters, 1 older brother, and my bedroom. About 4 feet into the living room was a doorway to the right that led into my mom and dad's room. And in the living room was another doorway to the right that led into the dining room, and the bathroom doorway was straight ahead from the dining room doorway. We had 2 doorways in our bedroom. The first I've already mentioned, and the second was at the back of our bedroom, which led into the dining room, also at the other end of it. The whole back of the house was the kitchen area, with our eating table at one end of the room. Now, as you entered the living room from the porch, you could see our couch. If you come out from our front door in the bedroom, you would be standing by the couch. I know this is already long, but it's important so you can visualize what I'm telling you. Okay, now for the good stuff. I got up one night, as I was often did, and I hopped into bed with my mom and dad. As I stepped out of the bedroom into the living room, something grabbed me by my ankle. I don't mean it gently laid its hand on me. It grabbed as to hold on to me, or hold me still. It was cold, whatever had grabbed me, and it came from underneath the couch. Well, of course, being a little kid, I screamed with everything I had. I woke the entire house up. They even said Grandma heard me at her house, and there was a field between our houses. I don't recall seeing anything, just being grabbed. A while later, my uncle is spending the night. He's fresh out of high school and has enlisted in the Army. He's my mom's baby brother and is spending time with us before he leaves for boot camp. As night falls and everyone's going to bed, he's lying on the couch trying to fall asleep. He hears someone coming out of the kitchen, and he thinks it's my dad, who's notorious for scaring people. He's thinking my dad is going to come through the dining room and scare him. So he decides to scare my dad instead and pulls the covers up over his eyes. You can hear him walking through the dining room and come to the doorway that leads into the living room. And the footsteps stop. Now he's thinking my dad is trying to mess with him and eases the covers down, expecting to see my dad. It's not my dad or any of my family members for that matter. He jumps off the couch and runs into our bedroom and jumps into bed with my sisters, whom he scares by doing this. They ask him, "You seen what Jamie did, didn't you?" He told them to shut up and go back to bed. He lied there awake all night, and at the first light he was gone. He never spent the night with us in that house again. Years go by and we get older. He had served two tours in the Gulf War when it first started, got out of the Army, got his heating and air conditioning degree and license, and started his own company. I was out of a job and he called me up, asked me to come work with him. For a while, we've always got along kind of like brothers instead of uncle and nephew. Maybe it's because we're both babies of our siblings, I don't know. So I tell him, yeah, I'll drive up and work with him for a while. Our nights were usually spent standing out by his building, radio going, something on the grill, and we'd be drinking some beers, unwinding and relaxing from the day. One night it clicks in my head about what had happened to me and what he had seen all those years ago. So I asked him about it. At first he just told me that he didn't want to talk about it. Now, this is a guy who, as I stated earlier, spent 2 tours, combat. He was a scout, so he was front and center when the war started, and until he left. He would talk about that with me easily, so I told him, look, I don't remember seeing anything from that night, and all of my life I've heard the story that you saw what I saw. Maybe if you tell me what you did see, it will jar something loose in my memory. He thought for a minute and said, okay, I'll tell you this once, and I don't want to talk about it anymore. I said fine, and he commenced to tell me the story as I told you earlier. He said when it came to the doorway and stopped, I thought, oh hell, now Wayne, my dad, is trying to mess with me. He said he lied there for a few seconds after the footsteps stopped, and he eased the covers down to see who he expected my dad, but it was not. He told me, Jamie, I expected to see your dad, Wayne, but it wasn't. It was green and fuzzy. I said, do you mean furry? He said, no, it was green and fuzzy. He said it was standing there, looking at me on the couch. I've thought about it every now and then, and nothing has jarred loose in my mind. I don't know if I was so shocked and scared that my mind blocked it and put a wall up. Later in the years, my grandma told me about 3 people who had died in that house. I think she said all 3 people were preachers, but I can't swear to it. I do remember she said 2 were preachers. I don't know. I don't see a preacher coming back to scare a little kid. That night messed with me until I was in my 20s, especially about dark places. Well, Jeff, that's my experience. As I said, I know it's long, but I wanted you to get a mind's image of my house and how it occurred that night. Feel free to use my story. Rearrange it however you need so it fits. You can use my name, I do not care. And if you are wondering where this occurred, look at a map and find a town called Loris, South Carolina. I grew up right on the South Carolina/North Carolina state line. I now live in Pennsylvania. Jeff, I wish you good luck on all your endeavors. Today's second South Carolina subscriber submission. Hello, Mr. Jeffrey. My name is Kay. I'm from a small town in South Carolina. I've been listening to your channel for a few days now and thought maybe you'd like to hear my encounter I had 7 years ago. I was 15 years old at the time and have always been an outdoors type of guy, and have been handling guns since I was about 10. One day my uncle called me and asked if I wanted to go camping with him in some woods his buddy owned, and of course I said yes. We spent the day gathering wood and setting up camp, and by that evening we went to hunt some squirrel for supper that night. While hunting, we did get a few squirrel, but we came upon a couple of coyote carcasses rotting near each other, and were pretty torn apart. My uncle thought it was a little strange, and so did I, because the way they were so mangled. And down here we have very few bear, and I have not seen bobcat down here my entire life. We just shrugged it off and thought, who knows, headed back to camp to cook our kill. After we ate, we decided to hit the hay. We had a big 2-door tent that we shared that night, and we didn't even have time to sleep before we heard the coyotes in the distance. It sounded like they were fighting, but then we heard them start yapping, like they were being attacked. It made the hair on my arms stand straight up, and we stayed up listening until they stopped. My uncle just told me they were just fighting, go back to sleep, but I could tell he was concerned. I debated on adding this to the story, but I will anyway. After a couple of hours of sleeping, my uncle awoke, yelling. He jumped out on the side of the tent. I got out and asked him what was wrong. He was covered in sweat and sat by the low fire. And when I sat next to him, he said he had a dream that a ghostly-looking woman, tied up on horseback, was being escorted by men in occult robes, walking by our tent. And when she got next to us, she turned and looked dead into his soul with glowing blue eyes. That's when he woke up. It wasn't long after that, still by the fire, we heard the coyotes again, yelping and howling. My uncle said something just not right in these woods tonight. We eventually did get a little rest, and that morning we decided we were just going to head back home. Next day, my uncle put a trail cam up near our camp, where he had a tree stand, not expecting to see what he caught. The camera took a picture a couple of nights after of a creature I have never seen before in my life, and I've been hunting for many years. It was black as night, and it looked almost like a dang mutant wolf. It was so unnatural. It had large, pointed ears. It stood high off the ground on all fours and had a long tail. The body had fairly thick fur, but the snout was short like a panther or something. Had its mouth open, full of sharp teeth. You could see the muscles on this thing, but the most unsettling thing was the glowing, fiery orange eyes it had. When I saw the picture, a series of chills went down my spine. About a week later, I still went hunting in those woods, but one night, in the stand, I think I heard this creature. I was in my uncle's stand when all of a sudden I heard a loud scream like nothing I had ever heard before. I've heard bobcat and even mountain lion once, and this was nothing like it. Then it started making sounds, almost like a monkey would make almost. I can't really describe it. I think I may have even seen it once, but I was not 100% sure. I've told very few people about this, and only 2 believe me beside my uncle. My uncle hasn't shown many people the picture either, and I'm not even sure if he still has it, as he doesn't really talk about it too often. I have a buddy who lives near me that swears he saw the same thing cross the road in front of him on a dirt road. I hope this is an alright encounter for your channel. I know it was a bit all over the place, but I'd like to hear back from you and let me know what you think. I did end up having him on a while back. We talked about how the sounds that this creature made. And there was a subscriber from Georgia, I believe Georgia, and she sent me this audio file. I hope I still have it. I probably do, somewhere on one of my computers or something. But it sounded, and I'm not kidding, this was in the woods of Georgia. You could hear a canine-like sound started off. It sounded very large. And then it was almost as if these Georgian woods turned into like an African safari sound. That's the only way I can explain it. And I've shared that on an upload. But it was absolutely terrifying. I'll never forget it. And I've heard it a couple different other times as well from other people here and there. Today's 3rd South Carolina subscriber submission. Dear Jeffrey, sorry for taking so long to get this to you. I ask that you do not use my name or give out the location. You can call me W and the location upstate South Carolina. Now on to the meat of the matters at hand. Forgive the spelling and grammar. My first encounter happened when I was 4 years old. I was sleeping and got woken to a sound to see a large, dark wolf-like creature looking into my window. The bottom of the window is 6 feet from the ground. The head filled the middle to the top, at least 8 to 9 feet tall, bright amber-colored eyes, very white teeth, very dark in color. I would guess black. It was backlit by the moon. My mother convinced me that it was a bad dream. That was my last encounter until 2016. I'm now 50 years old. In 2016, due to health problems, I had to stop working and apply for disability. Still have not gotten it. A friend of mine let me live on a few acres of undeveloped land along the Broad River in Union, South Carolina. I lived in the woods for a little over 2 years. My first encounter with a Dogman there happened on the third evening just before dark. I was making coffee and cooking some fish for dinner, and I heard some movement behind me. Yeah, I was aware of dead silence that had suddenly descended around me, and my 110-pound pit bull had gone into full alert mode. She's my baby girl. That's when I noticed something was not right with the thick undergrowth in front of me. There were 2 reddish-orange bright spots that should not be there, about 4 feet off the ground. As soon as I made eye contact with this thing in the brush, the smell hit me like a ton of bricks. The loudest wet dog urine, dead meat crap smell you could imagine came out as well. Due to previously mentioned health issues, I can't run or fight for a long, bad heart. Right as the smell hit, the bone-shaking growl started. My poor baby girl went into full defense stance, though she was terrified as I was. But I don't react like most people. My flight or fight response always falls on the right side first. Don't know why. I have just always been that way. I have my guesses as to why. I have to give my girl credit. She didn't just charge the threat, but she stood her ground and waited for my command. I trained her well. She's watching the one behind me, and I'm watching the one in front of us. My friend had just happened to leave some bear spray left over from a trip from Alaska. 3 cans, 30-foot range or so. I sit on the can, more like 15 on a good day, but very powerful. Mind you, there are very few black bears in this area, so I was keeping a can close by. I was also tending my cooking fire, and I had my camp axe in my hand at the moment. My girl was on a leash. Can't break her from going after deer. Can't blame her, and I love deer meat as well. Anyway, the one behind me must have made a move, because she went in full kill mode. At the same time, the one in front of me started forward. It was about 10 yards or so away. This particular brand of spray opens when you pull it from your belt clip, ready to fire. So I pulled and fired. I did not realize it was flammable. The one in front of me yelped and jumped to my right, missing his footing, and rolled down the bank of the river. No, the flame didn't reach him. At the time, the other one got within my girl's reach, but I guess the sudden burst of flame caused it to hesitate. She grabbed it on the leg. At the same time, I hit him in the face, point-blank range with the spray. That was in my left hand, and quickly followed with the blunt side of my camp axe right on the foot. Between me and my dog, he fell face first onto the ground, a 400 to 500 pound face plant, almost in the fire. I dropped the spray and pulled my hunting knife with my left hand, stuck him on the nose with the blunt side of my axe, and jumped on his back using the hook of the axe to hook his chin. I laid my knife to his throat, hoping he would understand me. Please don't make me kill you. I mean you no harm. To my absolute amazement, he relaxed, and my dog let go and backed off. Still on guard, though. That's my first encounter, close and personal like. There's much more, but all this typing has aggravated some old injuries in my hands, so I have to stop for now. I'm open to phone interviews, just to let you know. I think I will send old boy an email. I'd like to hear what he's got to say. That kind of got me thinking. Today's 4th, South Carolina subscriber submission. Greetings, sir. My name is Shane. I am from Union, South Carolina. I want to share some experiences I had long ago. I will try to do my best to explain here. It's hard to talk about due to people not believing me or so. But here goes. Back in the late 80s, me and my brother and my 2 stepbrothers went out to spotlight for deer. No guns, just looking for deer. We came up on this old abandoned house. It was after 9 p.m., and as we put the light on the house, a huge bipedal creature stood right up. It was around 9 foot tall, covered in dark fur, red eyes. We couldn't see its face. Not sure what we saw, but we left in a hurry. Some years later, me and my brother had some chickens in a huge lot we had made from 4x4s and very strong wire to keep out the predators. One night it was freezing rain and we were in the living room late night. We heard something down near the lot. It sounded like branches being broken and a loud crash. Well, we decided to wait till day to see what happened. When we got out there, I saw more. Something had broken the boards down and the wire pushed all the way in. Something took our rooster and 2 hens. Whatever it was, got what it wanted. But this was just the beginning of what seemed like a series of events to follow over a few years. Jeff, I'll tell you the truth here, and to this day I am still scared to talk about this, but need to find closure and hopefully try to understand what these things really are. A few more years passed by without anything happening. Until one day I had moved into a trailer park. One night, it had been raining out real hard for weeks during the winter of '97. I looked outside my window to see how much rain was on the ground. I was worried about the flooding. As I looked outside, near the very tall power lines, I saw something bigger, around 9 foot tall, walking upright, and it was covered in dark fur and had a cone-shaped head. I saw it only for maybe 5 or 6 seconds. Sometime later in 2005, I was sitting outside on the front porch around 11:30 p.m. Everyone had gone to bed. As I sat, I noticed 2 figures walking on the road going around the park. One was very tall, over 7 foot, and the other was around 5 feet. Both had dark fur all over, and I could not see their faces. They seemed to notice me and took off. I had never seen them again. Well, a few more time passes, and I move out to Georgia, near Douglas County, a little town called Villa Rica, Georgia. I was with my ex-girlfriend, living with her and her dog, our dog named Jasper. She went out on the porch at around 11 again. It's strange how some of these happen around that time. I went out to take my dog for a walk. As I was talking with my ex, we both heard this incredible loud growl, like something was about ready to attack us. It scared us all, and my dog was so bad we went back inside quickly. Now, this happened after the coyotes started coming around that night for a long time during the winter months. This is when the Sasquatch came around as well. The reason I say this is because the footprints I found on Christmas night after a snowstorm hit us. The snow was over 3 inches deep and had frozen solid. The footprints were 8 inches long and 8 inches wide. I took some photos, but I did lose them. I have told a few people, including my ex-wife, and she believes me. I used to live there right beside a small mountain. There were lots of woods all around, so anything could come and go without being seen. My ex died and moved back to South Carolina. So, years later, I married my loving wife, who supports and loves me. I'm still trying to figure out how and why these things happen to me. I used to be a paranormal investigator. I had my fair share of paranormal experiences as well. So dealing with the unknown is a little easier than dealing with something like this. A theory on this, but it's just my own. That when experiencing these things, they seem to be attracted to you. Even the Sasquatch and Dogman seem to notice this. I had very real dreams of Sasquatch communicating with me through telepathy. Sometimes it was friendly, other times it was quite scary. There was one more encounter I had back in '94. Me and a couple of my friends went fishing late at night to a public small lake called Wildcat Lake. Well, we arrived there after driving down the gravel road. We were the only ones there. We get set up on the fishing deck. You have to walk down a small, narrow, paved road to get to the deck through the woods. It was very dark that night. As I fished, I started to hear something walking around, breaking branches, and something threw a rock into the water. I got that overwhelming feeling of being watched. You could hear it breathing. Well, shortly after, some time passed, this thing made a loud scream like a woman in pain or angry. It was very, very loud. My hair stood up. Me and one of my friends wanted to go to the store, so we stayed behind and kept our stuff safe. I felt really bad about leaving him alone. We hurried back as quickly as possible. When we came back, he was all scared and said something came close to him, breathing loudly, making noises. We decided to leave then rather quickly. As we left, it would follow us through the woods. We never saw it, whatever it was. Each time I went back there, you could feel something watching us. Even the animals wouldn't come around. It was very quiet and scary, even in the daytime. I have not been back there since, and to top it off, there is a legend about a ghostly dog haunting the road at night, called Happy Dog. It's white, with very big red eyes. It's supposed to stop your car and make it shut off and pass through your car, sometimes attacking the car and leaving scratch marks. But most of my life has been quite scary, and I had to share some strange things. I guess sometimes you don't pick this happens to you, but they pick you for some strange reason. That's my encounter, my experiences. I choose to research these cryptids. I want to find out why it happened to me. Thanks so very much, Jeff. God bless. Be safe and sound. For those who have had experiences, I pray for you all. And please be careful. Stay out of the woods at night. I've seen where they sometimes come up to people's homes at night and day. They are very dangerous. Same sub. Final email. Hey Jeff, my friend, I'm writing an encounter I had on August 20th. Me, my wife, were going on our morning class around 8:10. We'd usually travel the back roads when going to class twice weekly. The travel on this road I call Sasquatch Road due to its activity and large X structures there, and a small cemetery is close by as well. I think at the time of nothing happening, but as we came to the cemetery I glanced over just to have a quick look, and then I quickly saw a huge black dog man with long ears sitting there, looking out at the cemetery. It was much bigger than a dog, and its tail was long as well. As we went down the road, the dog man came out onto the road looking our way. My heart was racing, and I was so afraid after seeing one for the first time. I've had 4 encounters with Sasquatch, 2 of them too close and terrifying, but this dogman really got to me. All day long, even in class, I just sat there. I was thinking about it. Even now as I write this to share it with you, I'm still haunted by this experience. Ever since I started to hear about Dogman for over a year now, I believe other people are telling their horrifying stories. My concern is now that since I just live a few miles from where I saw this dogman, that it may have followed us home. I'm praying that it never does, even though I live in an apartment complex and with security cams all around. This road is originally called Cedar Grove Road. It's a small road with a cow farm and small cemetery. Lots of woods and plenty of wildlife for large, predatory hunting animals. Tonight's final South Carolina subscriber submission. Hey bud, my name's Tony. I'm a retired firefighter from South Carolina. I have a cabin on a large plot of land. There's also a small pond on my property, so you can imagine the size of the land I've got. I enjoy hunting, fishing, and just being in the outdoors. So the summer of 2015, I'm relaxing and go for a walk down by the pond and see some large, what I think were dog prints, but I keep thinking, way too big for a dog. And go back down and start looking more. Maybe someone's trespassing with their dog or some sort of wolf hybrid. I just blow it off and forget about it. Same day, but now nighttime. It's about 9:30 p.m. and I'm on my porch smoking a cigarette and look out at the tree line and see these yellow glowing eyes about 7 feet off the ground, swaying back and forth. I yell, "Who the hell is out there?" Nothing, just the eyes swinging. I go in and grab my double-barrel shotgun, go back out, the eyes still swaying. I start to make out a silhouette in the moonlight, and it's grabbing a branch in the tree. I hear this growl, and once again, yell, "Who the hell is out there?" I shot my gun, but not at whatever it was, and this thing stays in the shadows and starts walking to its left like it's trying to circle back around me. We are both watching each other. I shoot once more just above the thing. Now this thing comes out of the woods. It's massive half-dog thing, walking on 2 legs, huge arms and shoulders. WTF is this? I whisper to myself. I throw a bottle out at it, and it turns to look at it, and I see it from the side. Its head looked just like a timber wolf. It lets out a loud growl, and I go inside my cabin. This monster dog thing walks right up to my steps, and we're staring at each other for a good 3 minutes or so. Then it turns and walks into the woods. I call the police, and 20 minutes later, the cop comes out, and I tell him what I had just seen. He looks at me and says, "What?" And then, "Not again." The cop looks right at me and says, "You saw something, but it wasn't what you say. And if you don't want trouble, that's what you will say. Got it?"
And that, folks, was this early morning or middle of the night bonus upload. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you all. I'd like to thank you for supporting the channel. It is, after all, your support that keeps this channel growing and going, and honestly what gives people a place and a chance to share their experiences and theories judgment-free. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant. Keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, friends. These creatures are real, they're out there, and they're dangerous. Share this information with the people you love and care about, and it may just help save their life someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for answers, and God bless.